Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP, and 10 million jobs. In support of that mission, we do these roundtables, these free mentoring sessions, week after week after week, and it's been going on since the fall of 2008, so more than 10 years. This is the 442nd session, and over 100,000 people have participated in these meetings. So it's become a fixture kind of in the world entrepreneurship ecosystem. The event is being recorded. You will find this and every other recording of our prior roundtables on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. If you're following us on Twitter today, or if you're live tweeting the show, please use hashtag 1M1M. And you can follow, if you're not following us on Twitter, you can follow us at 1M by 1M and at Romana. We publish a lot of interesting content through that. These are the call-in numbers. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we want you to participate. I will put these numbers back up on the screen a bit later in the program when you can come in and discuss whatever you want to discuss. Of course, the public chat is always open. Be sure to set your public chat to send to all participants. Do not send me technical support questions in private chat. I cannot anchor this program and do your tech support. You can ask technical questions privately to Maureen, and in terms of dialoguing with the audience and your peers here or us, the best method would be to do that through the public chat sent to all participants. We're going to start today's session with a conversation with Vikas Choudhury, Managing Partner of Pivot Ventures, but Vikas also has other roles and he will tell us about it. Vikas, let's start by introducing our audience to yourself as well as to both your activities.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Shramana. A quick background of myself. My day job is actually being part of the leadership team of today's the world's largest mobile data network, Reliance Jio. But that is not what I'm here to talk about specifically with you. I was actually one of the first angel investors in India when the VC industry started out in 2005 and have made more than 30 investments. I now have a family office investment vehicle through which we make private equity investments, typically in the pre-Series A stage. And that is what I'd like to talk about today.
Okay, fantastic. And that is under the Pivot Ventures umbrella?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so tell us a bit about the size of the fund, the check sizes that you like to write, and then let's talk about what kinds of investments do you like to make.
Sure. So the fund is not a classic drawn-down fund, as it is essentially family office capital that has been allocated, from my extended family, as well as some other closely associated business partners. And, we invest essentially out of our proprietary books and our existing businesses. And we typically do pre-Series A kind of investments, so it is not seed, but it is not late stage. It is somewhere in between, where there is a product in place and a customer validation in place. And we typically write about $500,000 checks into investments.
And the geographical focus is all India-focused ventures?
So largely, we have invested in businesses connected with India, either as a market or as a product/innovation hub. However, we are increasingly seeing a lot of opportunities and companies out of Singapore and USA that have India Connect. which is very exciting. We do have offices, of our operating family businesses between the U.S., India, and several countries in Asia. So that is sort of what we look at, but we like to have at least one India connect in the business.
Okay. And what about sectors? Are you talking about B2B and B2C? If you're talking about one or the other, what is your preferred sector? Can you give us some color on that?
Sure. So our team's experience comes from a combination of generations of running businesses to now actively investing in other businesses over the last 2 decades. We focus essentially on our expertise areas, which is tech and consumer. Of course, those are fairly broad areas, but within tech and the consumption economy today, some of the areas that we're looking at actively are anything mobile related, commerce as a whole across the ecosystem, analytics and AI, consumer products, retail, healthcare, and fintech. These are some of the areas that we have traditionally done. We've operated business in all of these areas ourselves, and this is where we think the future of opportunities lie that we would concentrate on.
But B2B and B2C.
Yes, B2B and B2C. Often our B2B plays are B2B2C versus pure B2B, but we have done quite a few of classic SaaS companies as well.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the things you've invested in, and we'll talk about Pivot Ventures investments in a moment. But I'd like to actually hear a bit about you said you're one of the first investors, angel investors in the Indian ecosystem. Talk a little bit about what did you invest in back in 2005, and how has that landscape changed, and how has your investment evolved through that, period?
Sure. I think there is, a sea change in the landscape, from 2005 to now. Essentially, 2005 was sort of the first coming, of the entrepreneurship wave in India, as well as the venture capital ecosystem coming together across various stages of opportunity. And therefore, the opportunities you saw at that point in time were sort of first generation building foundation products and services, and the first set of products that leverage the Indian internet and mobile ecosystem, but still with a market that was not yet in critical mass, but early stages establishing proof of concept, and then scaling them as we moved along. Today it has changed significantly, but let me talk to you about a couple of investments that I did at that point in time that have augured really well. So one of my first investments was in this company called InMobi, which is now a storied company, became India's first ever unicorn, became the world's largest independent mobile ad exchange. And when we did InMobi, it actually started out very interestingly as a publisher on the local search engine that ran relevant ads from local merchants basis your search. As was prevalent at that point in time, businesses often very quickly validated an idea and pivoted into an area that had critical mass. And that's where InMobi also pivoted into being a global ad exchange versus being, a local publisher of relevant information. And, that was essentially when Kleiner came in, and sort of history was created. At that point, nobody understood mobile advertising in India, but that was a bet that we were willing to make of saying that it's going to ride several waves, right? Mobile is going to become the primary device and communication of choice, for the Indian consumer. It is then going to evolve into also data and information being delivered and consumed on the mobile. And finally, therefore, an entire digital advertising market is going to emerge from one that did not exist at that point in time. And I'm glad to say today, almost more than 25% of Indian advertising, goes into digital. So, and we've seen, of course, the world move in almost 50% trajectory in several markets. So that was one investment that worked really, really well. The other one that I bet on at that point in time was again an institution today called Myntra, which is now part of the conglomerate of Flipkart in the e-commerce space, right? Again, at that time, e-commerce, was extremely new in this country. It was the first time ever that the ecosystem was coming into place in terms of logistics for last mile delivery, payment systems for digital payments, as well as the innovation of cash on delivery that drove Indian e-commerce adoption, as well as consumers actually going out and searching, for products, curating and buying online. And we made a bet again that in a category like apparel, not just something that's customized, not something as standardized as, let's say, mobile phones, which is the largest category in India today, people will also start consuming apparel online because, there will be an ability for the product to be able to sort of talk to you, guide you through the journey, and deliver all the convenience of shopping at home. And of course, we exited Myntra to Flipkart, and now Flipkart is, has been bought over by Walmart, as everybody knows, and that's been a fantastic journey as well. So those were some of my early themes that I did, at that point in time, where we bet on large shifts in consumption behavior that we saw across the country.
Because I have one question based on what you said. So it sounds like you are very comfortable with getting into markets that don't have a lot of traction. It's kind of future markets, which is unusual in India. What drew you into angel investing at that point, that early?
Sorry, I lost your last sentence.
I was asking what drew you into angel investing that early?
Right. Okay. Very interesting question. It was actually something that wasn't, really orchestrated. It was one of those things. I was running a software analytics company at that point in time, and there were a bunch of us, who were sort of third, fourth generation entrepreneurs that were also looking at, alternative investment opportunities in India. And we had a few common friends that came along and pitched ideas to us at that point in time, saying, "Hey, we would actually like a few of us that were in this space to mentor us and guide us as we build businesses in the tech ecosystem." And you said, what? Let's sort of put our money where our mouth is. We'll mentor you, we'll guide you. But we'd also like to take, a small equity stake, in the company so that we are vested in your, success. And it sort of also, gives us return for our time investment. So it was at a point in time where angel investing wasn't even a term understood in the country. So we almost sort of were the pioneers of that. It was clearly, as I said, by a pure entrepreneurial, catalyst process, which said that let's come together and put together a few businesses, and we'll see where it goes. Because each one of us was already, even at that point, doing day jobs, as we continue to do today. But we wanted to diversify the portfolio. We wanted other entrepreneurs to benefit from the learnings that we've had, and we had the ability to open a lot of doors, whether it was strategically or whether it was financially or customer connect that we thought would be important for early stage success.
Okay, so let's come to Pivot Ventures. the theme or the ethos of the kind of investing that you started with, where you were willing to look at greenfield opportunities where markets were not yet developed, does that sentiment transfer into pivot ventures, or are you being more, more conservative perhaps?
Sure. So I think, we, of course, the investment vehicle has changed, the time has changed in that sense, where the economy is today. The level of, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship has grown manifold. And giving a look at where our expertise lies today, we're also sort of 14 years into that ecosystem. We're seeing where the market is at. We've moved our focus, up a little bit into a pre-Series A or a Series A capital. We also, of course, invest slightly larger sums of money than we as individuals did, back then as angels. So essentially, we can write, a check which a consortium of angels will have written at that point in time. And now, of course, there are also several, early stage funds that write 100, 200, 500K checks, as you know. So we co-invest with a lot of the early stage funds, or even the lot of the blue-blooded Series A funds, right? So as you know, all the big Silicon Valley majors now do write very early stage checks in India, as little as $500,000 at seed stage. So we like to, we actually like to have runway of capital. We like to give more capital to the entrepreneur to begin with, because you then have the ability to try and fail or succeed in your early attempts and reach some critical mass that gets you ready for for larger competition, or lets you accelerate your entire product execution. So that's where our head is at this point in time.
But in terms of market maturity, I mean, if you talk about Myntra in the early days, it was not, in principle, sure, apparel was eventually going to get sold on the internet, but it was early, right? When you invested in Myntra, it was early. If there are other markets currently that have that dynamic, the mass healthcare, consumer healthcare market has that dynamic. A lot of fintech has that dynamic, where you may have little bits and pieces of proof points conceptually. It makes sense. It's a concept arbitrage, perhaps, from a concept that is working in the US or somewhere else. But it may not have complete market proof points. Does your pre-Series A investment comfort zone include ventures that have that kind of market immaturity?
Yes, we are not. We're not averse to entering businesses at early stage at this point in time as well. You're absolutely right. Healthcare is an area of expertise that we have in the family office, and we do look at early stage businesses in areas like that, which are in the ecosystem of maturity at a much earlier stage. Having said that, I think there is, because there is more capital available to deploy, because the product market fit is something that can be very, very quickly and very rapidly developed and checked in today's market. Because entrepreneurs are today either second generation or second life cycle, and therefore coming into us, having assessed the market, having tried something with their own money or family and friends' money. We do believe that if you just look at sort of the funnel that is out there, you have tens of thousands of new companies in India that are being born today. Less than 1%, of course, as you know, get angel funding, and then less than 1% of that go into venture capital. So we're simply making sure that that we are able to pick up companies that at least have their foundation risk out.
Yeah. The question, that I think about when I think about India and the next generation of companies is the velocity question. Traditionally, VCs have wanted to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. And that's not necessarily the velocity at which companies grow in India. Can you comment on that?
Yes, absolutely. You're right. So India essentially has a velocity of consumer adoption. So you will see companies go in 5 years, like you said, very, very quickly, and even sooner than that and shorter than that, into what I call consumer adoption, but not necessarily, paid adoption. So you are seeing 100 million consumers, which is something by itself to write home about, given the size of the country that we're at, and the size of, people on, on the web, which is commendable. So we're seeing a lot of that happening, people engaging with either connectivity, content, commerce, but you're not necessarily seeing, like you rightly said, the revenue translation for the businesses to $100 million. That, of course, to my mind is a clear also indication of the size of the, the Indian market in terms of, what the economy is relative to the U.S. economy. You can't use exactly the same metrics, right? Neither do you see that in the startup valuations for that matter, right? Whether you see the number of unicorns coming out of India versus the U.S. or China. So you don't see that in the late stage valuations, nor do you therefore see that in the, in the trajectory of revenue growth. So it takes a little while for Indian companies to be able to monetize their consumer traction, into revenues, both from a margin on GMV perspective. If we look at sort of the e-commerce industries, because there is gross margins in this country itself are slightly low. It's highly competitive, compared to other markets. And on top of that, India is actually a country of sort of 27 different states, 5,000 different cities. So there is a lot of execution, that you need to build out to leverage economies of scale. So when you get to scale, that is when you suddenly start turning on both the revenue and the profitability engine.
Yeah. So what have you invested in from Pivot Ventures that is interesting and worth discussing? Can we do maybe a couple of case studies?
Sure. So, in Pivot Ventures, we like sort of three different themes. We like the domestic consumption story. We like the entire mobile data and app growth story, which Jio has in fact catalyzed over the last couple of years and has completely changed the face of digital India. And the third thing we like is actually the ability to leverage Indian talent to build out global products, services, and businesses out of the country. In those areas, let me actually specifically just give you a couple of recent examples in the consumption space. One company that I've invested in is a pharmacy retail chain called Wellness Forever, which is a large regional play in India with over 100 stores, and going after a highly underpenetrated and unorganized market in this country. Right? Healthcare is, of course, a bellwether business in that sense. Pharma retail is growing significantly. As you know, a lot of generic drugs are also manufactured in India for the world market. It is extremely cost effective to buy these drugs in India, and there's of course a large population growth as well as young and aging population that needs this. So what's interesting is there are over several million unorganized mom and pop pharma chains across the country. So there was a clear opportunity for a modern retailer to come in, standardize the products and services. And I'm glad to say that this is one of those companies which is in that $100 million range, which has scaled very, very rapidly over the last 5 years. And that's one of our investments. Another investment I'll talk about is a cloud kitchen. So it's a company called Eesha Sheikh, run by someone whom I know, again, for the last 10, 15 years, a very seasoned entrepreneur, as well as investor himself. That company essentially, rode on the wave of essentially logistics and delivery coming of age in India, which was originally, designed for the e-commerce ecosystem. But as you know, food delivery is becoming very large across the world. Of course, from grocery with the Instacarts of the US, right, to actual ready food delivery. And a lot of marketplaces have come up in India, and Eesha Sheikh is one of those kitchens that has created over 25 sort of dark stores across India today. Has also diversified into local fast food cafes because a lot of young millennials today, are eating 20, 30 meals a month outside of their homes, which is a huge shift in consumer behavior across the country. And they finally also diversified into healthy food bars because there is another section of the population which is sort of our, vintage and demographic, if you will, that now, beginning to care a lot about, healthy food and everything from veganism to, to keto diets. This is where there is a play in that space. So these are two interesting examples of how we're looking at our investment in the India market, and has had, sort of 20x growth in the last, less than the last 5 years that we've made these investments in.
Because my last question, I know you have to run, so my last question is actually about the geo-led data explosion that is happening in India. Is there a large developer network of entrepreneurs who are developing on top of the Jio platform and building apps on top of that data?
Yes, absolutely. I think that there is there's a very heightened understanding of the opportunity that lies ahead of digital India. We're still scratching sort of the tip of the iceberg. You just have the foundation layer in India. You've seen India, data consumption as a country grow from being 155th in the world to being number 1 in the world today, which means that hundreds of millions of consumers have come on and experienced data for the first time in the country, and therefore you now have an opportunity to build value-added products and services on top of that ecosystem. So there is clearly a developer community that recognizes that. It's coupled with the fact that you have such great readily available tools and technologies that you can use, the big hubs of the world and all of that, to quickly string together apps for end consumer or even B2B purposes. So at Jio, we regularly run hackathons for people to go out and build apps. It is being done by almost every accelerator, as well as early stage fund in India that goes out and does this. So the combination of the maturity of the development life cycle, of the software world being brought down, by what's available out there, as well as now a consumer who's very willing to experiment with a new product or service, has given birth to a lot of early stage young developers that are building apps by the dozen.
What is a lot of? How many entrepreneurs are building on the Jio data platform, you think?
So the Jio data platform, has two aspects of it. A large part of our platform is the smartphone ecosystem, which is again in hundreds of millions, as you know, in the country, right? We have over 500 million smartphones in this country. We have over 500 million feature phones in this country. So we straddle both on the smartphone side. It's classic Android and iOS development, right? Android, of course, is 95% of the market, so that's where the bulk of the development is. And we also have a separate feature phone platform that Jio owns, which is called KaiOS for specifically the Jio phone. And that's an app store that we control. And again, we have hundreds of apps out there already, hundreds of apps in the pipeline that goes after mass market India. So the number is large. The number is in hundreds of entrepreneurs that are working on both those systems to develop apps, for the.
And have you funded anything from that pool?
Sorry?
Have you funded anything from that pool? Entrepreneurs who are developing on the Jio App Store? No, that is not something that I would actually do because that would be sort of conflict of interest. So that's something that would be Jio's prerogative. All right. Very good. Vikas, is there anything that you want to add to this conversation before we wrap up? I know you have to go. Sure. No, I think there is, I for one am extremely optimistic about where the Indian economy is heading, the growth that lies ahead of us, the non-linear sort of adoption of digital products and services in the country, and a lot more money coming into both the investing side of the ecosystem. Right, India has become one of the hottest markets today, almost upstaging China in the amount of capital that's coming into the country, and at the same time, the opening up of the consumer wallet in terms of what they're willing to spend, for more convenience or for value-added products and services. So I think there are, I think in the next 5 years, you'll see tens of more unicorns coming out of the country. You'll see tens of more Flipkarts, coming out of large exits in the country, and you'll see hundreds of brands that are built, both digital as well as consumer products, that will sort of leapfrog what's going on in the market. And I think we are all here to sort of support the growth of that that rise in the economy. Fantastic. Thank you, Vikas, for participating today. We will continue the conversation later offline and hopefully look at deals together. Audience, thanks so much for having me. You're welcome. Audience, we're going to switch to the entrepreneur pitch session. So before you pitch, let me set a bit of expectations. This is a working session. You can be completely candid and feel completely safe about sharing your challenges. No need to feel defensive or nervous. Just listen. We are here to support you. There's no other agenda here. It is possible that you may disagree with what I tell you. That's fine. It's your venture. You will do what you like to do. Remember one thing, not all businesses can raise money. Not all businesses should raise money. Raising money does not guarantee success. With that, let's go to Eesha Sheikh from Denver, Colorado, and let's listen to what Eesha has to say. Eesha, please unmute your line.
Hello.
Hello. Go ahead. Go on, Eesha.
Hi. My name is Eesha Sheikh, and I am the CEO and founder of Playpal Inc., which is a health tech startup based out of Denver, Colorado. So next slide. So before I actually start getting into the technicalities of the business and the vision for the business, I want to start off with why I actually founded this company and why what the inspiration behind Playpal is. It started when I was 8 years old. I was diagnosed with obesity at a very young age. I was 8 years old when I actually found out that I was clinically obese. I was a victim of bullying. I was severely bullied in school. I was called a human jelly donut. They used to pick up my food and throw it away. It wasn't actually until I went for my yearly checkup with my parents, I was told that that I had actually crossed over from normal from normal to to the obese line, and that my health insurance had to get reevaluated when it came to my family package. And that's when my father intervened and provided me with an incentive with all the toys that I wanted if I lost 35 pounds. And by age 10, I managed to lose 65 pounds and came out quite successful when it came to the way I managed my condition. But unfortunately, 20 years ago, there was limited access to the internet. There wasn't a Google like there is today to enable you to get information. So I had to resort to fat dieting and I had to adopt a very unhealthy way for losing that weight, and that has actually formed the inspiration, my father's incentive model, and the route that I still have to take, regardless of the plethora of health apps and IoT devices and all these gadgets that have come out today. I still have to go out and fend for the right approach to be able to maintain the healthiest form of myself. So that is what has actually gotten me to found this company that we call Playpal. And so the Playpal platform is a digital health marketplace that unifies global health IoT devices, apps, and stakeholders under one banner. And our aim is to reinvent the perception of health by helping individuals build what we call health capital. Okay. So if you go to the next slide, the health capital, we actually are very proud to say that we filed a successful patent. We're patent pending for what we call the health capital model, which is a utility which says that health is a utility, but it is also an input to an individual's wealth. So if an individual is sick, it is a disutility and takes away from the time that an individual could have invested into the market. And for any given individual, the health capital function that we call HT in our mathematical model is our attempt to quantify the quality of life and the productivity of an individual in economic terms. If you go to the next slide. So now this is to describe what digital health looks like today. As I said, I use a plethora of apps and devices already. In 2017 alone, there were 3.7 billion app downloads in the digital health space. The types of mHealth apps, there are 318,000 types of existing mHealth apps that are available on the app stores. And the global digital health market is at 182 billion today and is expected to increase to 665 billion by 2026. But the issue, if you go to the next slide, is that at the end of the day, if you're wearing a Fitbit device, or if you're actually subscribing to any nutrition or lifestyle app out there, there is all of this information about you is fragmented. It is dispersed in different places. Yet alone, the data that is actually given back to you from these apps and these devices is very limited, and it is merely a direct output of the input that you're giving to these devices and these apps. So, for example, if you're wearing a smartwatch of any kind, you're taking 5,000 to 10,000 steps a day, great. And Fitbit is telling you, and these devices are telling you what you're doing in terms of how much you're walking and how much distance you've covered. But there's very little that they're actually providing to you in a holistic way to tell you what you really need to do specifically to yourself. And so what it really is it's taking an input and giving you an output that may or may not be useful to you. And so that is what, and secondly, there is an absent unified mechanism through which different companies can incentivize the final user for improving their health. And so we combine both. We are an agnostic platform that can integrate not only to all the devices, but also to all the apps that are out there that choose to integrate with us through open APIs and SDKs to enable people to create individual health profiles that are unique to themselves, that can take and consolidate all of this proactive information about them, about their health, to provide a sustainable and tailored recommendation to the final customer or the final individual. So we're not competing with a specific wearable device or a specific app or a specific health company. We're just an enabler, a platform that brings all of this information together and enables the consumer with a consolidated health profile and an incentivification model, bringing it full circle. As you know, there is this massive movement in the U.S. about proactive health and bringing healthcare costs down through a proactive methodology. And health insurance companies as well as governments are pulling their hair out every day to try to come up with a holistic solution to make this happen. And there are many government programs and health insurance subsidies and programs that are being provided to the end consumer, but due to this fragmentation of information, when it comes to this proactive digital health arena, along with a lack of a universal way of incentivification, these visions and ambitions remain unfulfilled and ununified. And so that is basically what Playpal does. If you go to the next slide, please. So just to summarize, Playpal quantifies health through the concept of health capital and provides financial rewards to users for building upon and improving their health capital. We are a platform that customizes user recommendations through our proprietary AI ML software. We integrate into a person's existing routine as opposed to a demanding drastic changes. And our platform makes health fun and gamified as opposed to an undesirable chore. If you go to the next slide, please. And one of the biggest questions that we're asked, and as I just mentioned, that we're not really competing with a specific product. We're a platform that enables all of these things to come together. Our business model is primarily a B2B2C business model, and the sources for customer acquisitions through this model are through direct acquisitions of companies that have existing users, through our own games, and the users in those gamified health gaming engines that we've created, through B2B2C partnerships, and then directly into the platform. Next slide, please. So this is just the user acquisition and quantities and the CPAs through that you saw in the previous slide, and the CPA, the cost per acquisition through each of these channels. Next slide, please. And in terms of customer validation, so what we're actually creating has never really been done before the way we intend to do so. We're doing bits and pieces and taking bits and pieces of what is being done in the market and combining it in a more, you could say, a unique manner to bring everything full circle. However, there has been exceptional market validation that we've gotten over the past 4 years from organizations like Johns Hopkins, with whom we actually did a research study on gamified health that is also published, and the effects of gamified health on behavior change, and how behavior change can in fact have long-term benefits on cost saving when it comes to proactive health. And we have done several pilots with the city of Parker in Colorado, with United Way, and we're also funded by Aetna over these years to do pilot runs with our Playpal platform, as well as the gaming engines that we've developed that are about to get commercial this year. Next slide, please.
How much funding did you raise from Aetna?
We raised $20,000 from Aetna to do the first pilot in the city of Parker, and that entire pilot and the case study and everything that was done was in tandem with Aetna. And I guess my last question to Sarmana is that if rewarded for improving its health, would Sarmana's community be willing to do a pilot project with Playpal to test out our AI engine and to bring everything full circle to see the true effects of how individuals can truly benefit from the Playpal vision and the Playpal platform, and to truly, help us bring this vision to reality?
The answer is no, but I'll give you more feedback than that. See, the issue here is you haven't really packaged this up into a minimum viable product that has repeatability. It's a project here and a project there. The customer validation you're showing after 4 years is a project here and a project there, and you're proposing a project with us. We are not even relevant for what you do. So that is not the way to do customer validation. You're missing a lot of the methodology of how to build a business. And I strongly encourage you to learn how to build a business and, meeting all the requirements of what a properly structured business, early stage startup business looks like. And we have that methodology. If you want to learn our methodology, that's fine. If you don't want to learn our methodology, learn some methodology, but you do need to learn some methodology. Right now, your methodology is all broken. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you have questions? Is she fallen off? Okay, well, Eesha got off. Okay. We can come back to you, Eesha, during Q&A. Let's go through with the other presentations, and I'll be happy to chat with you more in the Q&A. Atindra Datta, you're up next. Atindra, are you on the call?
Sarmana, I'm back. I'm sorry. It dropped off the line.
Yeah, so did you hear what I said, or did you miss what I said?
No, I didn't. I'm so sorry. The minute I stopped speaking, it shut.
So just 1 second. Let me first check if Atindra is on the call. All right, Maureen, why don't you get Atindra on the call, and I will continue talking with Eesha while Atindra is getting organized. So what I told you, Eesha, is that you need to learn methodology. Right now, you have no repeatability. You have a few projects here and there, and then you're asking to do a project with us. We're not your customer. Who is your customer, and what is the minimum viable product for that customer? That is what you need to validate. And these numbers you have here are scary numbers. It's going to scare off any investor looking at these numbers. So be aware of that, and you need to figure out how you're going to validate, how you're going to achieve critical mass at a reasonable cost structure. So those are some of my early feedbacks, but I think the thing that you would benefit from the most right now is doing a crash course on the methodology of doing early stage startups. And you can do ours. We have 1Mby1M Basic, which is a $99 a month subscription to our course. You can do that, or if you don't want to do ours, you want to do somebody else's, and you need to get some methodology under your belt ASAP.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, what's happening? Atindra Datta is not on the call? Did I move on? Shaun. Slides have been directly uploaded. Shaun Maclellan, you want to go?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, so I'm presenting YouCollab. I submitted this last minute because my advisor highly recommended this to me just last night, so I snuck in quickly this morning. But yeah, today I'm talking about YouCollab and what we're doing in the content creator space. So the first slide here basically really enforces what a content creator is and who they are, and kind of what you may think of a content creator in the media or other ways, but who they truly are, and the broad span of content creators that there are. There are anyone from Kevin Hart, probably one of the biggest comedians in the world, to intellectuals, to people doing tech review videos, to the biggest athletes in the world, creating content on YouTube, Instagram, and starting their own independent projects. And overall, the space is growing and quite large already, and there's approximately already 7.2 million YouTube creators that's been actively growing for the past at least 5 to 6 years, almost 50% year over year for people making over 6 figures through YouTube. Next slide, please. So what is the problem in the space right now? What is the thing that they're most struggling with as content creators? Well, it's defining and building their own network. We have tools like LinkedIn that we can use and easily search up your name and figure out where you're located, what you've done in the past, what are the companies that you work for. But a content creator can't do this. You can't go to YouTube, you can't go to Instagram, and really figure out what is the full kind of experience and most important variables to a fellow content creator. It's only really built for the audience. And if a content creator doesn't have a network and doesn't have the ability to connect and collaborate and work with other content creators, it significantly reduces their chances of success. And YouTube has stated that collaborations are the #1 source of success for content creators, and we really want to help content creators collaborate in the best way possible. Next slide, please. So what is YouCollab? So really we're focusing around content creators connecting together. So without YouCollab today, a content creator would be able to still create amazing content, but they don't have the network effects, and they have limited engagement and limited growth of what they can do just with creating amazing content. You can create the best content in the world, but if you can't share it with organic audiences, it's very difficult to succeed. And with YouCollab, it allows for two or more content creators to work together, benefit from each other without any cost, and create amazing content and increase their engagement and growth directly just by creating better content. So the solution is building a network for YouTube creators to connect, communicate, and eventually get paid. We're focusing on YouTube first, and then eventually moving to other social platforms. So how does it work? A creator signs in through the YouTube account to verify that they are who they say they are. They're able to post collaborations, interact with potential collab partners, and communicate with each other specifically in the platform without all the noise and distractions from their audience and their fame that they've created. Next slide, please. So traction's big. So we've been able to get over 200 plus elite content creators onto the platform purely just based on cold reach outs and organic referrals. And one of the largest creators that we've been able to get onto the platform has 3.4 million subscribers. And we've been able to have some great kind of engagement for this small amount of creators, and the amount of time they're willing to spend to discover other content creators is quite validating to us as a platform. Next slide, please. So these are some of the things that content creators have said to us, and we already have existing relationships with some creators that we know at the most kind of elite level that have more than 6 million subscribers that would really be great people to work with, and we're waiting for the right time to work with them, since it really first impressions are everything, especially with content creators, and we really want to have the best chance. So we have those kind of connections that people have already said they can provide to us. We're just waiting on the right timing with our product to make those introductions. Next slide, please. So what is the market landscape? It's a very noisy and talked about thing online. The influencer, the content creator landscape, it's very hectic. So there's a broad range of companies. You kind of have the traditional agencies of Hollywood. You kind of have these new influencer marketing platforms emerging. And then you have these one-off kind of tools creators can use to improve their content or use stock video or photos. And really where we see each other is kind of in the high growth potential and a really tech-focused platform. And the closest kind of example to us that is not a competitor is Patreon. And Patreon, if you're not familiar with them, is a loyal audience platform that has over 100,000 content creators. They did 1 million in revenue, 500 million in revenue this past year, and they're actively allowing loyal audience members to donate to their favorite creator. And they've proved that technology can be heavily used in the media, in the new media landscape, and have scaled extremely well to where they are today. So what is the way that we would eventually monetize the platform and provide more value to content creators? So currently we're focusing on building the network, allowing creators to have their own identity, which they have nowhere else, and discover and communicate with each other. We do, in the near future, want to layer on a marketplace, which allows for them to interact with brands, which is a huge emerging space for brands to interact with new ways to get their products to audiences that they can't through brand deals. So that market right now is around $5 to $10 billion and is growing very actively, especially with ad blocking becoming a very prevalent thing in younger generations. As well as video editors is a key factor for content creators to create amazing content, especially when they get to a level where they have so many things to be working on that they can outsource their video editing skills to other people, as well as services that they need to better operate their kind of content creation process. Next slide, please. So what is kind of the two models, to break them down in more detail, and what are kind of the themes of what is currently not been done and what we want to focus on? Really, we want to focus on it being secure, efficient, and repetitive. In terms of the brand deals, we will take a flat kind of commission on all transactions, similar to most marketplaces, and provide a centralized process right from this discovery of a content creator to payment and all the steps in between. We also want to be able to use all this data that we're able to get from content creators that is unique, such as their location, their own descriptions, and other information, and build complex models to build the best pricing for the creator to present to brands, as well as with a network. And really the biggest value of building a network initially is a strong brand loyalty and a dense network, allowing for many repetitive transactions to take place. And that's something that just doesn't currently take place. There may be a brand to creator marketplace, which there is already 500 small businesses that exist, but they have no repetitive transactions, and there's no reason why you'd still use their platform. There's no community aspect, and this is what we're really focusing on. In terms of the service, it would be a simple subscription service of $25 a month, and it would be bundled all into this community-centered tool. So right now, for you to use all those different tools that we've listed, such as royalty-free music management, basic management of social platforms, stock video and photos, and video analytics, that will cost you upwards of $110. And they're all different tools. You have to use 5 different tools to do that. In terms of projected revenue of where we see ourselves in the next 5 years. We really see that these two models are things that can really be highly used by our network, and brands with content creators is becoming the #1 source of monetization for content creators, and it's very difficult to do that. And we really want to focus on reaching those goals, and we see these as achievable goals over the 5 years of the platform's growth.
So, Shaun, I see two things here. One is you are charging content creators a service charge, a SaaS subscription fee for your platform to communicate, meet other content creators and so forth, which has some value. You haven't described really what they do. If you're just looking for a messaging platform where people can chat with other people, a LinkedIn-like functionality that has certain amount of vertical search capability that helps you filter through to the 5 content creators who are directly relevant to my particular domain and I need to communicate with, that has some value. And then the other one you're talking about is that you're going to bring brands onto your platform, and you're going to have them buy deals or spend basically advertising dollars on these content creators, and you're going to take a commission on all of those transactions. So what part of this is validated currently from a paid customer point of view? Is the subscription service validated? Is the brand situation validated?
Yes. So the brand, to focus on the brands first, almost every kind of major brand in the U.S., especially in the beauty and consumer packaged goods space, currently tests out and works with influencers. So everyone from P&G
to
Unilever.
That's not my question. My question is, do you have brands on your network who are paying you commissions to do these kinds of deals with influencers?
Not right now, no.
Okay. What about the service side? Do you have content creators paying to subscribe to your service?
No, we have not integrated those services yet.
So you said you have about 400 content creators on your platform already? I saw a number somewhere.
200 plus.
200.
It's now at 270.
Now, if you were to segment those, what segment would they be in? You have skateboarders, you have, what else do you have there?
They're mostly lifestyle channels, such as people that do vlogs or how-to videos or photography. Those are kind of the most common categories.
So what is a brand that would be ideal for what you're trying to do to advertise to this inventory that you've created?
Where would the brand fit in? Is that what you're?
Yeah. Which brands would want this audience?
Brands that are already working in this space right now are brands such as Gillette, all the biggest beauty brands, all the Unilever, P&G, every kind of Airbnb, Nike, Adidas, every major brand works in this space right now, and they do deals with content creators.
So what is the gating item in getting like 1 or 2 brands to start validating your assumption that they're willing to buy on your platform and reach the 15 million subscribers?
So our kind of philosophy is there is many small influencer marketing platforms that deal with brands on this kind of very small scale, that they have a couple brands and then they have a couple content creators that they work with. The issue with this is they don't have the repetitive interactions and enough data to make those decisions and automate those decisions. They currently do it as almost a small agency. But for them to scale and to reach a critical mass, it's almost impossible for them to do so. since they have no unique data and they have no tech background.
But you're claiming that you have 15 million, you have access to a community of 15 million users across 200 influencers. So that is your value proposition. Why haven't you taken that value proposition to brands to start to close some deals?
Because we want to grow it to a much larger scale to then be able to pitch those brands much more effectively with the exact quantitative value that they would get with these content creators.
I don't agree with that strategy. I don't like build businesses that take a lot of time to start monetizing.
Okay.
So I think you'll learn a lot and you will grow in a much healthier fashion if you start, having your marketplace produce revenues. Instead of, the alternative is to look for investors to, finance a lot of red ink, and I don't like that pattern of building businesses, that method of building businesses.
Okay. Okay.
So what questions do you have besides what I just told you? Do you have any other questions?
No, our biggest focus right now is raising funding, not in the way that you prefer, but our biggest goal is to kind of reach a critical mass and then monetize. I know that's not what is ideal in many cases, but that's kind of the best path that we see forward.
Okay, I don't agree with that, so this is not a good fit for us to work together on.
Okay.
All right, good luck. Is Atindra Datta on the call? Or should I skip over? All right, I'm going to skip over. Okay, folks, I'm going to explain to you how to use 1 million by 1 million if you are interested in using the program for your own acceleration purposes, and then we'll go to Q&A. So everything resource-wise is at 1Mby1M.com. You will find a blog that is free, and it's absolutely chock full with interesting, inspiring, educational information. So just following the blog, you'll learn a lot. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series, there are 12 volumes. You can learn from those. They're all available on Amazon. And you can come to these roundtables. They happen pretty much every week with short breaks when I'm traveling or something. But, out of the year, we have probably at least 48 out of 52 weeks we have roundtables. The full acceleration program is 1M by 1M Premium. We have extensive methodology guidance. We have a curriculum that is case studies and video lectures based. We help you with business development. We help you with strategy consulting, similar to this format, but in private, closed-door sessions. And we also help you with financing and media relations. If we agree with your strategy, I just turned Shaun down. I just told him that we're not going to be able to help him because it's unvalidated businesses like that don't really get financed, and I don't want to waste my cartridges by introducing him to investors who are going to not be interested in investing in this kind of a situation. So I recommend you go to the self-assessment on the blog, on the website actually, and start answering those questions. If you can't answer those questions, it's going to be very difficult to get in front of investors and defend your business. If you get stuck on methodology points, 1M by 1M Basic is our curriculum-only option. It's the best way for you to rapidly, in a very compressed time frame, very efficiently learn the curriculum, learn basically methodology that you need to learn. So dig around on the website, see if this program is for you. There's basic, there's premium, all the descriptions are there. There's FAQs, video FAQs, description of the curriculum in depth. It is a case studies and video lectures based curriculum. We have over 1,000 case studies. that includes 100 plus unicorns, 400 plus venture funded companies, another 400 plus bootstrapped entrepreneurs, and all of that is available for you to learn from. So very often what we do is when you are coming up with an idea, we point you to case studies that are similar case studies, comparables that you can model your strategy around, and that's been a very effective way to bring our entrepreneurs up to speed. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient, bootstrap startups. The philosophy is bootstrap first, raise money later. Mostly investors don't invest in unvalidated startups, so we try not to waste our cartridges by introducing unvalidated businesses to investors. So that's pretty much it. The next few roundtables are May 9th, 16th, and 23rd. You're very welcome to come to any of those and pitch and discuss what you're struggling with. We also have in-person rendezvous on May 8th, 15th, and 22nd, all at Cafe Boroni in Menlo Park. So if you're in Silicon Valley or visiting Silicon Valley for a conference or a business visit, please come by, and happy to meet you. That's it. Time for Q&A. We do have time today for Q&A. If you would like, please either call in or use the public chat, set the public chat to send to all participants and start asking questions. Meanwhile, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. Her email is irina@1Mby1M.com. She will answer any questions you may have. All right, folks, questions. Anybody?
Oh, hi. My name is Kunal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm located in Santa Clara, California. So this is my first roundtable attendee. So I'm glad to see one of the investors from India as well as the entrepreneurs here. So I was curious about how many have got funded so far from going through your program or attending the sessions, and typically are there any particular verticals you are interested in, or it's all over the place?
So you can go to the website and look at the testimonials, where we have testimonials about what people have done in this program. We don't publish any of these statistics that you're asking for. In terms of verticals, we have core expertise in B2B SaaS. So the way the program is split up from a curriculum and methodology point of view is we have a bunch of core modules. There are about 7 core modules. Let me actually go back and show you the verticals. It might help you to understand what you are asking here. So the core curriculum, if you go look at the brown screen, brown bar on the left, the core curriculum consists of bootstrapping, positioning, market sizing, customer validation, financing, customer acquisition, and team building. That's something we believe every company needs to understand, every entrepreneur needs to understand to build a business. That's the core. And then in the electives, we have the verticals where we have expertise and, again, elective curriculum, but you have access to everything by subscribing to the program. So cloud computing and business solutions is where all the SaaS, AI, machine learning, all that, big data, all that stuff is. Web 3.0 and e-commerce has been a big area of entrepreneurship in the last 10 years that we've been doing this. Mobile and social apps, healthcare IT. As you saw, there's a lot of digital health stuff going on right now. We have a lot of digital health activity these days. Online education has been a steady fare all along. There's been, continuous businesses in online education. There's, I would say the bulk of the businesses would be in either B2B SaaS, web businesses, various kinds of web businesses, e-commerce and media and so forth, mobile and social apps, healthcare IT, online education. I would say that's where the bulk of our businesses are. On your question about funding, please understand that we do not automatically introduce people to investors. So if you're coming here with the assumption that just by subscribing to the program you will automatically get introduced to investors, that is not the case. Over 99% of businesses out there get rejected for good reason, because they don't fulfill the criteria of venture capitalists, which is to go from $0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years in revenue. So that's, you have to show the beginnings of that to get funded in the early stages, and there are some, pretty well understood sets of validation criteria that are required for investors to consider funding you. And we understand those, and we have had plenty of fundings. Our numbers are actually better than, the less than 1% number of the broader market. But I don't set expectations that just by joining the program you will get funded. That is not the case. The vast majority of the people who join the program are actually not fundable, because either they don't have the velocity of growth or they don't have the TAM level at which VCs fund companies. So those are some of the qualitative elements that you should keep in mind. So don't come here assuming that you will immediately get funded. The other thing that we are starting to see, which may help, you make your decisions, is something that I've written about quite a bit, bootstrapping to exit. So we've had a few exits recently that were bootstrapped companies or very modestly funded companies that we've been able to, find exits for. So the bigger one of those recent exits is Future Today, that is two founders, without raising any outside capital, sold the company for $60 million. And then we have another smaller exit. Adia got acquired by a public company called Qualys, that also was a very modestly funded small company that we managed to actually get that exit for them. So it's, it happens. It's not just funding that people come here for. People come here for guidance. People come here for, how to learn how to build a business. And then people come here also to, understand their exit potentials and so on and so forth, and access our network. So all of those are value propositions from the program. So please don't come here with the single-minded idea that you are coming here to raise money, which is the primary reason why I said to Shaun that this may not be a fit, because I'm not going to play that game with you. I'm going to tell you what I think is the right way to go about building your business and make yourself fundable. If you come with the assumption that you will automatically just by accessing my network, get funded, that is not going to happen. So I'm not going to push you in that direction. I'm not going to steer you in that direction. Funding is a very complex game. Very few companies are fundable. So as Vikas said earlier on in the conversation, that, less than 1% get angel funded or seed funded, and less than 1% of that gets venture funded. So it's a very, very low probability game. Maureen, could you share the probability of fundraising video in the public chat? That might help people assess a little bit of what we are looking for in trying to get companies funded. I'll take any questions if you might have in the public chat, folks. Or you're welcome to call in as well. Anybody else? Any other questions from the phone or from the public chat? Uday Kumar is asking, I own an e-commerce retail company with revenues 1 million to 2.5 million each year last 9 years. 2 years ago, I started Mansion e-commerce, a bootstrap SaaS startup. Using my retail company as client number one, replaced all my legacy systems and processes with over 20 plus SaaS apps to automate a majority of retailer needs. I have 20 plus apps installed in our retail company. How do I scale this up one at a time, or I'm thinking build small product teams for each app and scale up in parallel. So are you doing a platform? What platform are you running your e-commerce company on? Is it on a off-the-shelf platform like a Shopify or something? Or are you running it on some homegrown platform? So folks, while I'm answering Uday's questions, please feel free to look at the probability of fundraising video, or at least make a note of it to look at it later. You've built your own proprietary platform. Uday, I think the market is not there for proprietary e-commerce platforms anymore. I think you're wasting your time building proprietary platforms and trying to sell proprietary apps on proprietary platforms right now. The market is way too mature. Shopify, BigCommerce, Volusion, Magento, there's so many players out there. I don't think this business is going to work at all. So I would discourage you to pursue this line of thinking. And frankly, instead of trying to run your e-commerce company and build all the software, you should use something off the shelf like a Shopify and run your e-commerce business and focus all your energy on growing your e-commerce business, as opposed to trying to do these two businesses that are disjointed and have no synergy whatsoever. I think you need to focus on one business and not these two different businesses that don't have any leverage. Your business strategy is quite significantly off. It needs a massive course correction. So folks, one thing I'll tell you is that I give very direct feedback. So that's something that you have to get used to work with us in 1 million by 1 million. Uday, you were saying, scaling up the platform, you're planning to scale up 20+ apps over Shopify partnerships. That would work if you're trying to do apps that are on the Shopify product ecosystem. That would be fine. App store, that would be fine. That's a better strategy than your wife owns the retail, you want to scale up the SaaS apps. Okay, well then do Shopify apps and try to sell on the Shopify app exchange. That is at least a more reasonable strategy. Anybody else? Any other questions? If you, just like Uday just did, if you just summarize what you're trying to do and what your questions are, I'll be happy to give you my perspective on that. Anybody? All right. Well, I don't see any other questions, so we shall just adjourn, and we'll meet you back here next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.